So welcome everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this brilliant session of Elevenses, which takes place every Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachel Brown, I'm part of Creative Entrepreneurs Club, and we are focused on upskilling, networking and enabling the creative industries to have as much resource as we can muster, especially during this crazy time of COVID-19, to enable your businesses to flourish, you as a person to flourish, and actually just to feel connected in a community, because we do believe that you're not alone. We are genuinely in this together and we're trying to do the right thing. So given that, if there's anything that you get through the Creative Entrepreneurs Club that's good, bad or ugly, please do let us know. We want to enhance the resources. We want to make sure that everybody gets something that is worthwhile. And so we're pretty much up for anything. We have groups, we have one-to-one sessions, we have short videos, we have blogs, a whole range of stuff. And we also have a cracking jobs board. And of late, we've created an opportunities section as well. So people are posting in skill shares there, they're posting in jobs and freelance jobs as well for short-term projects. So please do check it out. I'm delighted today, though, that I'm joined by somebody who's been a huge support and engager for the creative industries and for the Creative Entrepreneurs Club, Lucy Gannon. Lucy is a lawyer, which is awesome. And as you will have heard me say before, the people that you need to surround yourself with, especially at this challenging time, are people who are specialists, who know their stuff. As many brilliant conversations you can have with people who are in the legal profession, in the finance profession, that is absolutely the way that you should be doing it. Tool yourself up and don't be a typical creative and tell me that these things don't concern you and that they're too hard to muster. So we're all about trying to demystify some of this stuff, create the environment where you can learn, and there is no such thing as a silly question. So at any point, jump on the site, ask us what you need to know, and a specialist will get back to you. So, Lucy, welcome. I was just also put the caveat in that between us, we have 5 children. We are working from home. We are homeschooling. I feel like I'm doing everything that there is to do apart from some kind of house renovation. I'm sure I'm going to start ripping out walls at some point because there's nothing else going on that I need to focus on. But how are you getting on? A legal profession is considered fairly traditional in the way that they deliver and view work. So how are you getting on working from home at the moment?
Love that word, traditional. Something's got to change, and I tell you, COVID-19 is definitely going to do that. This lockdown, I think, is going to change the legal profession massively, all for the good, I would add, and things that we've been banging the drum for a number of years. I think, yeah, this lockdown is a really good opportunity for our profession, for all businesses, to start working a bit more efficiently, being a lot more productive. So I think it's a really, really exciting time, to be honest. I know it's very, very stressful. Like you say, we've got 5 kids between us. We've also got 3 cats between us because we got a kitten during lockdown, as you do. And yeah, so it's a crazy time. It's a good time. It's stressful. It's a whole mixture of emotions. But I know that you've previously, you've said that before in other chats at Elevenses with other guests. It's just, you've just got to make the most of it.
Have you found that, so I've been saying to people, I can work really well for 5 hours a day and I'm really focused for 5 hours a day. And normally if you're in the office, you're clocking in, you're clocking out at 9 to 5 or whatever. I mean, we've never really worked like that at Creative Entrepreneurs Club, but I know that within other organisations, it's by the hour. But in this environment, I've got a really good 5 hours a day, and then I decide to do other things or not. I might come back to it at night. Do you have flexible working? Are you able to get around that?
Yeah, so I've always worked a bit flexibly, obviously having young children. So and the thing with lawyers, the majority of lawyers can actually work from anywhere. So long as they've got a laptop and they're able to make calls, it is pretty easy to advise clients from wherever you are. So from my perspective as a commercial contracts and corporate lawyer, yeah, I can advise from my bedroom, from my son's desk that I've moved into my bedroom, just so that physically I'm as far removed from the rest of the family living their life downstairs as possible. And yeah, I've done calls, I've drafted documents, I've done loads of one-to-one sessions for Creative Entrepreneurs Club, and it's gone very, very smoothly. I've got a lovely view out of my bedroom window. I can see what all the neighbours are up to, and yeah, it's fine. For other lawyers who rely on paperwork a little bit more, it's a bit more challenging, but they're finding solutions, they're finding ways around it, they're thinking a bit more innovatively, which I think is crucial. But yeah, and in terms of, you talk about you do 5 hours solid, I don't know that I could calculate that necessarily. I think with the kids being here and homeschooling, there's interruptions. So in the morning, my son likes to get most of his homeschooling done. So I dip in and I dip out of my work and my emails. I like to get, he feels much more secure once he's done his homeschooling, and he feels a sense of achievement. And I want him to go into the rest of the day feeling that. So I would say, once we've done Joe Wicks, obviously that's a religion for us, obviously, of course. Obviously. But it is, you know, and it's doing us so much good because it's getting us started. My husband absolutely loves it and lives by it now, swears by it, because he's then got to run around after our 3-year-old for the rest of the day. I don't mind if you feel sorry for him, because you should, because our 3-year-old is a rocket. He just doesn't ever stop running. So after Joe Wicks, we do a bit of homeschooling. I check my emails, and then once homeschooling's achieved, everything's uploaded, then he can go off and do his keepy uppies and play in the garden, go on bike rides, and I can crack on with my work in the afternoon. So that tends to be a typical day at the moment, but I mean, is there such a thing as a typical day in this new normal? I'm not sure that there is.
Absolutely, but I think what you've described is really helpful for people to hear, because I think people have a set view of what a traditional profession can be, and I think at the moment, you know, you talk about people needing to achieve. Your son, I'm the same with my children. I want them to achieve. I want them to be happy, but it's the same in our own lives. You know, we want to achieve something. We want to be happy. We want to be settled, and then we go and do other things. And I'm sure that if we give ourselves that space and time to do all of that, then when you come back to the job, it actually, you're way more productive. And I think it's really interesting that you know, sectors like the one that you're in, that might have just been very traditional in its view up until a point of 3 months ago potentially, now saying, actually, I bet productivity is going up because I'm taking more time. We're not very good at that in the creative sector. We're not very good at giving ourselves a rest or giving ourselves some time. It's always constant. The to-do list is never ending. But I think about what you deal with on a day-to-day. My to-do list is nothing like your to-do list. As a lawyer,
I have a to-do list that only ever grows, but so long as I'm ticking things off, I think that's all I can ever expect and ask for. But yeah, traditionally law firms, I mean, we're stuck in the past. That needs to change. Our use of technology needs to adapt. We were talking just yesterday as a partnership on a big Teams call. It was great. There's 28 of us, but we were all able to share our ideas, talking strategy. It was a really exciting thing to all see each other again and be together again and talk about the challenges that we're facing. But there was so much enthusiasm for innovation and technology and changing our ways and looking at things in just a different way. And I just think that's fantastic, and it's certainly getting my generation of lawyers excited, which I think is really, really good.
So what is it that clients are coming to you with? Because I think that's probably one of the challenges that clients have, is that they probably want you to be really innovative and up for it as well. But there's definitely a disconnect there sometimes, isn't there? And I know that you understand the sector that we're involved in really well. So you're able to kind of articulate it in the appropriate language, but there's so many barriers. So what are clients coming to you with?
So the variety is massive. It's not like other sectors where it's fairly standard services and things that happen. It is just so broad. And so, but that's what I like about it, to be honest. That's what's kept me coming back for more over the last, 10 to 15 years. I can't resist it. I can't resist the passion. I love the enthusiasm. I love the light bulb moments. I've got an idea and I'm determined and I'm focused. And I just think if we could bottle that, if I could bottle some of my first initial meetings I've had with clients over the years and sell it, I mean, I would make a fortune. And that's always what keeps me coming back for more. So the types of things are so varied. I thought it might be quite useful if I could give some examples of the one-to-ones I've had just in the last few weeks.
Absolutely, yeah.
I thought that would be really useful. So on a no-names basis and very general, so the first person that I had a meeting with was all about how should she structure her business. How should she be a freelancer and a sole trader, or should she incorporate a limited company? And what were the pros and cons in her particular circumstances, which is always the crucial thing. You've always got to look at what a business is doing, what they're trying to achieve, where the risk is, where the exposure is, and then after discussion, you decide, or you assess and you figure out what the best route is. So we talked a lot about that. She was also planning to sell a very specialist product to a very small market, but definitely there's a market there. So we talked about what the best way to do that was, what she would need if she was selling things. So obviously contracts, terms and conditions were crucial, because that reduces that exposure, reduces the risk, and it protects her going forward, and all of our blood, sweat and tears is protected in our business. So that was the first one, and that went really well. And I got a lovely email after our call just thanking me, and it was just lovely to have that chat with her. A total stranger. By the end of it, I felt like we were best friends, and it was brilliant. And she's away off on a mission to achieve her goals.
I was just going to jump in there, Lucy, because I think that's a brilliant point. Is most people only seek out a lawyer when there's a problem.
Oh,
but actually, I know.
Honestly, I've been saying this every day of my career. I say this. It's not about problems. It's not about scariness. It's not about intimidating lawyers. It's about help, support, relationships, advice, doing it right, getting the groundwork, getting the foundations right, and then building from there. That's where lawyers help, that's where my type of lawyering helps.
Exactly, and it was brilliant to hear that somebody's like, right, I need to change today, or I need to consider this today. How do you help me protect that and focus on that going forward? So
exactly,
if I could bottle that,
I know,
because it's a really big behaviour change. A lot of the times, a lot of the stuff that I deal with are people going, can you help me because I'm in a pickle? You just wish,
which I don't mind. I mean, I'm there for pickles as well. Pickles are good. I can help with pickles, but I would love to get the opportunity to get in there early to explain the importance of it. But what's really refreshing with the Creative Entrepreneurs Club is that people are recognising that I'm there, and that I'm there for that type of conversation. And I'm not convinced a few years ago that would have been quite as popular. And so that for me is really good. They're not scared to contact me. They're not scared to say, I don't really know what I want to ask you, but here's my situation. And it's so, that's what I find easiest, is listening to them, and then I can apply my experience and my knowledge in a way that hopefully is fairly understandable to get them to the next stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, perfect sense. And I think that's brilliant. I've just got a note to get in early. I'm going to put that all over the site later on today, because I think that's really, we say that a lot. If you can get your finances and your legal structures in place that help you create the foundations of the business or the solo venture you want to create, going down the line, you just feel a bit more solid and protected. And actually, I was doing an interview last night with Tamara Schlesinger, who's a musician, whose name is Malka. And she talked about she had got her big break, which is brilliant. Check it out in the Creative Entrepreneurs Club website later on today. She got her first big break by singing These Boots Are Made for Walking in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. She did the soundtrack for that, but she didn't have a contract in place, so it was she didn't make a lot of money at it. But the person who was Robbie Williams' lawyer noticed and said, actually, do you know what? Let's do something about this. And so she's had this particular person, Anne Harrison, for years and years, and they've been built up a relationship. She runs everything past her, and she talks beautifully about the relationship, actually, of thinking, I'm in the music biz, a lawyer is not for me, but because they work for the music company, but actually having this brilliant relationship with somebody who really understands the career and understands the business, and then can bring in all the legalities with it, was brilliant. So it was great to hear that from a client and a musician.
Exactly, it is. It's so nice to hear that from that perspective, and that's true every day. It's relationships. I've still got the same clients that had their light bulb moments, came to see me 10 years ago, and I look where they are now, and I've been on that journey the whole way along, and nothing gives me more satisfaction than being on that journey with them and seeing them grow, but seeing them do it safely, seeing them do it sensibly, seeing them do it with the least amount of risk that's possible. I mean, there's always risk, there's always exposure. You've always got to take a chance sometimes. And I'm not there to hold them back. I'm there to keep their eyes open, make them aware of everything. But then the decision is theirs. You know, it's their call whether they take that next step, but at least they're doing it fully informed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Who else were you speaking to? What was the other examples?
So we had a guy that came on who has gone into business with another individual about 6 months ago, and they have come together. They've both got different skills, but the thing they're coming together, it's a SaaS, so it's software as a service. That's the model. But he was wanting to cover a few things like how do they regulate their relationship? So they're coming into business together with these varying skills, and they're on the same page just now, but will they be on the same page in 6 months, 10 months, whatever, in the future? And my advice is always to try and at day one, write something down, document something that says, this is where we are, this is what we're both putting in, these are our expectations, and these are the what ifs. We'll call them the what ifs because it's what if I die? What if I'm made bankrupt? What if I want to go to Australia? What if I want to emigrate? What, you know, all the what if scenarios. What if one of you is cheating? What if one of you is dipping the till? How do you want to treat the other one in that situation? How today will you want to address that in the future? And once you've documented that, it goes in a drawer and it only comes out when you need it. So we talked about regulating the relationship, getting that down in writing. And he brought that up. And again, delighted. I didn't need to say, have you thought about regulating the relationship and how you're going to do that? He said to me, and I think we probably need some kind of agreement. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So again, buzzing that he came to me with that suggestion and we just talked around it. They're also exploring taking some equity investment. So again, that's something that we do day to day in our business. But creatives don't do that day to day, just like I don't create things or design things or write things, or you know, I don't do that every day, but I do equity investments every day. So I explained the situation, but again, it wasn't a standard situation. It was he's exploring equity investment and he's putting his terms in place, whereas normally investors come along and say, I'll give you this money on this basis, according to these rules. These are the controls I want. But it was reversed. He was approaching investors and saying, this is what I'll give you. This is what I want from you. So again, that's special and that needs chatted about and it's not standard. So we talked around that too. And I think he went away with a bit more of a plan in place. We also talked about a royalty arrangement with a potential relationship. So we talked through the different options with royalties and how you might approach that. So a really varied conversation, but very worthwhile, I think, for him.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I want to pick up on actually. I was hoping you'd mention that equity with creatives, because one of the things that's really inspiring to me, I mean, we've got over nearly 1,100 people in the Creative Entrepreneurs Club, and I don't I dip in and out all the time, so I don't have much of a relationship with everybody, but I'm constantly scanning the organisations. I'm constantly looking at the back end to see what structures people are at. Is it a project? Is it a business? Is it an idea? Where people are at, and the amount of creatives that would be able to generate investment and equity deals, it's extraordinary for me. And but people just don't do it, and there's something around how do we demystify that. People are used to saying, I need funding for that. The conversation I always have is, well, how much do you need? And then people say, how much can I get? And I'm like, well, but how much do you need? And they go, but how much can I get? And I'm like, they're two different questions. So how do we, if you get any thoughts, Lucy, how do we start to unlock some of that conversation about investment or equity, or what does it mean? How do we, because going forward, I truly believe this, going forward in our new normal, in our future economy, creatives have got the most to sell, and we're currently giving it all away for free, and it drives me bloody nuts. And as soon as I start
as well,
and as soon as I kind of give that, I'd be terrible at poker, because I'm like, what they're like, I don't know, 15 quid, and I'm like, what? As soon as I start having that conversation, people just retract, because the money piece is
recoil.
such an issue.
people just don't want to talk about money. And you know, the conversation I have loads, like the what structure should I use for my business conversation that I had with one of the members, I was like, well, so is this a commercial business that are you wanting to make money? Are you wanting to make money so you can reinvest, but also pay yourself something substantial? You know, what are your aims? What are your goals? And a lot of them are really, really scared of saying, yeah, I want that to be a commercial business. A lot of them automatically go social enterprise, I can get more funding. And I say, I get that. Of course, if you're a particular type of entity, then sometimes you will get access to funding better. I totally accept that. But is that a long-term plan? Is that a long-term goal? Are you really analysing where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? Are you wanting to sell one day? Because if you want to sell one day, you're not going to sell a social enterprise. You're not going to sell a freelancer sole trader business. You're going to sell shares in a limited company to somebody that might buy one day. So I would encourage people to think more long-term, more commercially, if that's appropriate. It might not always be appropriate. I totally accept that. But also, equity isn't always the answer. So giving away a share of your business in day one, I would always discourage people from doing that. People give away equity far too easily. However, there will be situations where it is appropriate, where they want to get from here to here, and the only way they can do it is either with that money that someone's got, or with their black book that they're prepared to open and share with you, you know, with their contacts, with their network. You don't always just get money with equity investment. It's who you're working with, who your investor is, could give you way more than money, in which case it might be the right thing to do for your business. So there's lots of options, but my goodness, yeah, the money discussion and the valuing your potential and valuing your product or your service, yeah, creatives need to work on that, definitely. Because like you say, there's an abundance of assets. The IP, the intellectual property, is just there to exploit and commercialize. And I think it's really exciting.
Yeah. And how do you think, I was a really interesting conversation a couple of weeks ago with Philip Hanna about some of the IP stuff, and I've since followed up with him and some of that. And we had offline, him and I had a robust conversation about the kinds of IP that there's IP that you have to give away to get the bigger vision understood,
achieved.
So there's within creatives, it's not as straightforward as it was if you were doing, you know, if you're selling pies, you know, and you've got a pie recipe and you've got this and this. With creatives, there's a bit of give and take. Have you got any tips or tricks or advice about what can we do? What should we consider? Because one of the things that people do notoriously poorly is value themselves in the right way. I think that's quite a Scottish thing as well, but certainly in the creative industries, there's a value. People will talk you out of a deal. So the amount of times I hear people I go, that's awesome. And they go, yeah, well, do you know, I mean, it's okay. And you're just like, oh, you're already talking me out. I'm trying to...
So Scottish.
So Scottish. I want to buy something from you, and I'm actually giving you the door that's open, because if you came back and said, oh, you can have it for 15 quid, I'd be like, I'm in there. So, but we don't pick up on those signs. Have you got any tips and tricks of how people do that whole IP and selling and understanding? What should they think about?
Well, do you know, one good way is when people are studying, there needs to be more courses on these types of things, and it's not run by academics that will just throw jargon at you, but done in a more practical, you know, example driven way, with maybe other creative people who have gone through the journey and gone through the process of valuing their business, you know, selling their IP, protecting their IP. More, I mean, that's certainly the way I learn, and I have learned over the years, is through example and through experience. So I think early education, people need to understand, or the creative industry need to understand, that is their value, their ideas and their innovation is, you know, that's their bankroll. That's what's going to pay their bills and allow them to grow their business in the future and employ people and you know, contribute to the economy. So the more they understand that that's what's important and that's what needs to monetize, the earlier the better, I would suggest. I'm not sure who, other than, you know, the education system, who else has got a responsibility to do that. I do think you're right, it needs demystified. It's simple when you know how, but how do you get that out there in a way that people going to want to read a blog about IP and protecting their IP when they're a creative? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think I've got the answer to that. But I do think education, explaining examples, people explaining where they've been and what they've been through would be really useful.
And I think it's like what you said earlier around having the sort of a regulating your relationship check. Actually, even just thinking about that phrase all the time, no matter where you're at, about how am I protecting what I've got? How am I thinking about what I've got?
What do I want out of this? What am I? What am I investing in this, and what do I want my return to be? It's like an investor on the other side. You know, I act for lots of investors who are putting money in. What's their, they call it ROI. What's their return on their investment? What are they looking for? What do they want out of it? So every business person, whether you're a creative, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in food and drink, everyone should have that plan and that understanding and not be scared to explore it. I do think that there's a degree of fear and hesitancy in the creative sector that that's not really for them. Of course it is. You know, it's their business, it's their future, it's their livelihood. So why shouldn't they?
No, definitely. I think you're totally right. I agree. I think we're on a journey around how to challenge that behaviour, though, because it's just not a comfortable conversation. You know,
no.
It's sometimes because people are so consumed with creating what they need to create and want to create, and that's absolutely good and right. But actually, my experience with other sectors is no different from any other passionate business owner. But that sometimes when I describe that to people, they're kind of like, no, I'm creating something. I'm like, yeah.
So you're a business person. Yeah.
You are a business person. But there's different elements that you're considering. You're making different choices, and you're factoring in different impacts, and you're factoring in different markets. But you're still creating. You're being entrepreneurial, and you're creating the business. You have the mindset. It's exactly the same as somebody, you know, creating a new manufacturing plant. The drive and the focus, and it's still the same.
Totally. So my husband is in the food and drink sector, and one day we were walking holiday, I think it was about 7 years ago, and he had a light bulb moment. He's a chef, so he's previously had an Indian restaurant over in the French Alps, and he came back to Scotland because he loves golf and obviously loves his wife. But he had a light bulb moment where he used to serve his staff in his Indian restaurant naan pizzas. So he'd get the tandoor, chuck a naan in, and then he'd put a bit of curry sauce on it and a bit of mozzarella, bit of Indian chicken, and that would be it. And that would be the staff meals, cheap and cheerful, delicious. And he was like, we need Indian pizzas. So he is so creative, entrepreneurial. He loves drawing, he loves art, he loves food. He's a real foodie. So the total opposite of me. And off he went on his journey, and he was determined. So he got all of his things made. He got his sauces made, he got his toppings made, he got his naan made, and he built it all together. He found someone to build it in a factory, and he ended up on the shelves in Tesco. So what an amazing entrepreneurial journey, full of challenges, full of stresses. I mean, we lived and breathed, it was called Curry Dave, and we lived and breathed it for a number of years. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out in terms of any return for Curry Dave himself. So by the time all the manufacturers had their share and Tesco had their share, there wasn't anything left. And we made the decision that we wouldn't chuck the house and everything else at it, because obviously I'm very risk averse. But he had such an amazing experience getting that product from a light bulb moment, walking down the street on holiday one year, to then seeing it on the shelves, you know, with packaging, with everything on it. What an amazing journey. And he's been able to share that. So he's a consultant now, obviously self-employed, and his work disappeared as soon as lockdown started. But he's able to share that journey, share that product innovation, share that experience with all these other food manufacturers and innovators and things that are all wanting to get their products and food to market. And it's been fantastic for his business and for his clients. So but I have lived and breathed that entrepreneurial journey. So I think that also helps me when I'm advising creatives, when I'm advising my food and drink clients. I've been there. I get it. I get the squeeze on your income. I get the squeeze on your return. I get how difficult it is. And and how challenging it is, and the headaches and the worries, but what an amazing experience at the same time.
Mm-hmm. It is, no, definitely, and it's one of those things that when you can look back, you're like, oh, that was awesome. When you're in it, you're like, oh,
that
I'm not going to be able to make payroll. I can't handle this. Like, if I need to speak to that person in Tesco one more time, I'm going to cry.
Oh, I know, buyers.
So I actually do. So funnily enough, I developed and delivered a retail academy for social impact and creative organisations to get their products on mainstream shelves. Yeah. And one of the most memorable days of my life was spending in Leeds, Asda head office in Leeds.
You've been there,
right.
Yeah.
With
it's like a big green building, isn't it?
It looks like a supermarket. It's a big green building. You walk in and it looks like a supermarket. It's actually everybody's office. And I went in and I was with 30 people who make sausages. So everybody was making sausages. Everybody was selling sausages. And it was one of the most bizarre experiences of my life, because everybody was there at 8 o'clock in the morning, all suited and booted, ready to sell their sausages. And I was like, wow. And this went on for all day. And actually, it was fascinating. It was cutthroat. It was absolutely cutthroat. There was so much learning. I just kept thinking, if I could bring a bunch of creatives down here, they would nail this, because lots of times people don't know how good they are, and they don't believe in their product. These people were selling like Willy Winky sausages, believing in their product. I was like, this is the bizarrest day of my life. Brilliant. Everybody then started cooking sausages, and I couldn't eat sausages for about a year and a half afterwards. I was like, this is horrific. The smell was just awful. But what was really interesting, and this is something that, you know, I always try to look for all of the lessons in every part of a journey you have to bring back to the bit that you're passionate about. So for me, what was really interesting is, out of those 30 sausage manufacturers or creators, Asda knew they were only going to take one. They knew absolutely they were only going to take one. And so when we were developing something, and they came back to me and said, so we take 1 out of 30 for the products we know, sausages for God's sake, right? We take 1 out of 30. If we're going to look at your products, we're lucky if we're going to take 1 out of 60, because your product is so unknown. And that kind of level of intelligence for me was really fascinating, because a lot of the creatives and social impact businesses I was working with, not necessarily right for Asda, but the logistics that are required, the supply chain knowledge that's required, the actual buying knowledge, the behaviour of the buyer was fascinating. So the rock star of the moment arrived, shall remain nameless, but this person arrived in a Porsche. And that was the spirits and alcohol, beer, spirits and alcohol, and they've got like a really fancy name, like the BSA guys, like the real guys. And these guys were rock stars. And I was like, that's really interesting. So we actually took, when we first did it, the first year, we took 4 alcohol. It was largely Scottish as well, so it was really hard not to take alcohol with us to sell. But we took 4 alcohol products, because I thought, actually, they're the ones that are considered rock stars, but actually they're the ones that are much more open to risk. So the person that's, if I took a creative approach to sausages, I'm not suggesting anybody in our club would create sausages, but I knew that if I was going to take sausages down, I'd have to fight really hard for the person to be convinced, because the person that buys sausages is like buying for families, buying for older people. They've got a very particular view, but the person that was buying alcohol is in such a fluid marketplace, and they were driving a Porsche, they were pretty jazzy. So I was like, if I can convince them that this is the next big thing, and get them to look at it, because you know, their ego needed to be massaged in that way, I thought, then I'm in, I can get in. And then I just need to get the guys behind us that are creating all this amazing product, I just need to get them to step up to the plate. And so we did it. We actually did get 2 alcohol products on the shelf. One of them, don't mind saying, is Bruegger, and the other one was Heroes Vodka.
Brilliant.
But it was a real fascinating learning curve around just around what makes that market tick. So there's a new market for me. And I just think that's so important for everybody today in our creative community, is really looking beyond and understanding other markets. So what are the behaviours of the future that we're going to see, that when people are coming to you and saying, right, I think this is the niche, you can go, well, actually, there's a precedent for this, this and this. Your foundation needs to look like this. Regulate your relationship with people like this. And so people can start to explore with some really solid foundation, how to take a brilliant risk. Because you know, I've been saying a lot to people recently, 12 years ago we saw Uber, we saw Airbnb.
Yeah.
We're not going to see that this time. We're going to see something much more impactful, much less money driven, more creative and more socially driven. People are going to want to see product, and we're going to see product from a diverse group of people as well. You know, long gone are the days where it's going to be dominated by the 30-something white middle class men in Silicon Valley. That's not where we're at, and we've got a real chance now to stick our head above parapet. So what you say is really exciting for me, Lucy, about putting those two things together and creating a solid foundation and an appetite for risk.
But also the other thing I would add to that from what you've just said is community. So for example, your alcohol products, I'm involved in I'm the legal advisor for the Brewers Association of Scotland, and also for the distillers in Scotland too, and they're amazing communities, and I know they're creative, they're producing things, they're, you know, and I know it's the food and drink industry, but it's the same principle. They work together so well, they're members of a fantastic community, just like Creative Entrepreneurs Club, and the value they get from one another and from one another's experiences, whatever that may be, whether it's, like you say, it's buyers, it's markets, it's margins, it's sharing of all that type of information and data, it just brings them on so much faster. And they're two great bunches of people. So Creative Entrepreneurs Club is just that. It's a space where the community can get together, share their experiences, share their knowledge, and it should only, you know, power the creative industry in Scotland to bigger and better things. And people just need to get their hands dirty. They just need to get in amongst it and ask those questions that are not silly questions, and see where they want to get to.
Definitely, it's a good point. Actually, we should do more market intelligence. I might put that to the I'll think about that. It's a good point. I hadn't actually thought that we should share our market intelligence across everybody, but actually we should. Has anybody in the group got any questions? Normally it's slightly bigger. If anybody wants to dip in and ask something, then please do. See a few folk typing away. It's really interesting convo. Very exciting, actually. Sorry, I've just nearly cut you all off. Sorry about a minute. Sorry, that was not. Goodbye. Thanks for joining us after all that. See you later. Sorry. Let me just hold on for a few people. And remember, you can, if you want, you can message me openly or you can message me privately. It doesn't really matter, whatever you think is more appropriate. So regulating your relationship. I'm getting my top tips in here. Regulating your relationship and getting early, that's what I'm going to do. So we've got something around IP. And yeah, I think if you want to book a one-to-one with, just to say, if you want to book a one-to-one with Lucy, jump on the website and get that done. We had a few technical stuff, but actually that's all sorted now. Nova and I have been multitasking as we've been on the call, so that's all sorted now. We've had a bit of an overnight thing going on, but get in the one-to-one and get booking with Lucy. This comes up a lot, Lucy, with this question: what are the typical mistakes, or what are the common mistakes for people who create original IP that they make on the start of their journey? This is something that comes up a lot, and I probably have had this question, I think, at least a dozen times in the last 4 weeks, in the last 9 weeks, sorry.
Yeah.
What are the challenges or the mistakes at the very start? You're making original IP.
Mm-hmm. Really, I'm not. I can't think off the top of my head of examples, but of what happens. But because it really depends. Is it what the IP is? What is it they're creating? I mean, there's the risk of sharing it too soon. There's the risk of not explaining that it's copyrighted, so not putting your notice on. But that risk is out there all the time of people copying things. I mean, I've had lots of clients who, it's horrific. They've had their logos appear in China, trademarked and fully protected in China, but they're not protected here. I mean, it's just crazy. It's a global world we're living in, and that risk is everywhere. And there's not a great deal you can do unless you've got an obscene amount of money to plough into it to protect it. So yeah, it would really depend on the type of IP that is you're trying to protect, and then identifying that and then addressing what the best way to protect it is, whether that's trademarking. The copyright is obviously instant and automatic. But then my issue is always, I've made a mistake, I've lost that, someone's copied that, what do I do? And then people can't afford to challenge the people that have stolen their idea or are passing off as them and taking influence from their designs. And that's what I find really frustrating, is that a lot of the creative guys don't have the wherewithal, don't have the funds to fight, and then have to walk away. And it must just feel really, really frustrating in that situation. But I'm not sure how we address that, that imbalance.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually, and it's happened this morning, I'm having a conversation about Scottish Enterprise about doing something around that. So watch this space from a Creative Entrepreneurs Club point of view. We want to try and get some support to be able to do that, whether it's a angel buyback kind of a vibe, where we could put the money up front for a bit of ownership and then give it back.
Okay.
So there's some interesting things that I'm up for all of it. I think there's something about really powering up a community, and actually I've thought for a long time, if you could have an authentic non-profit driven angel approach to supporting a community, but you have money, which is different from grant, different from investment. It's somewhere in the middle.
It is, yeah, it would be. It'd be interesting. I'm not entirely sure what that would look like and the challenges of that. I'm sure there would be lots, but these things have got to be explored. In the new normal, you've got to support the industry. They can't grow. The community needs support from everywhere in a very holistic way. And you can't leave these gaps, because it just puts people off, doesn't it? You need to try and close these gaps and plug them with the support that's appropriate. And so what if it's not been done before? So what if you've thought, outside the box and you're coming up with a proposal? Someone could be interested in it. I say, why not?
So I think it's the first point of call, or the first mistake rather, is not having the conversation straight away. I mean, that seems to be the first, is get in quickly, because there's no such thing as a silly question. And especially if you're creating original content for whatever that original content might be across a number of platforms, is have the conversation early and just start to explore it.
Yeah, and a lot of the time creatives, if creatives are using a limited company to protect themselves, protect their house, their car, their assets, it's got to be very clear that any of the IP is owned and is in that company, or who owns the IP. That type of thing, it sounds complicated, but it's really not. You just need to make sure that the things you're selling and the people you're selling to, it all adds up, or it all makes sense, and there's no gaps in there as well, because that's where people can exploit, and that's where things can go wrong. So where your IP is, how it's owned, how you exploit it, who makes the money, that's all got to be, that's got to be right.
And do you think that's a really big challenge then, because so many people in the creative sector are sole traders or self-employed?
Yeah, it's only a challenge if there is significant risk or exposure to them. So for that member that I talked to, we analysed their business. I always say, what's the worst thing that could happen in your business and what it is you're selling or what it is you're doing? And, is it really important that we protect your personal assets? Because could anyone in the world, when you're selling online globally, can anyone come after you? And if they can, so we always explore the risk and exposure, and then we always explore contracting terms and conditions and insurance, if that's appropriate as well. So it's like a tick box exercise. If I do all of these things, can I get away with being a sole trader? Maybe you can. And remember, it's a tax issue as well. I'm not a tax expert. That's the number cruncher's job. That's not me. But I do always expect clients and the members to go away and get that type of advice, so that they don't go away and incorporate and then realise they're getting a double tax hit when they're getting the money out into their pocket. So it's all got to be right to take that step. And like I said at the very beginning, every situation is different. Every single one.
Yeah, totally. We've got a brilliant financial specialist in Peter Evans, that is with us at Crave Entrepreneurs Club, who, you know, the double act between you and him, absolutely, if people can get what they need within that, that would be awesome, because I think that is a big issue. We've had lots of conversations around current situations, you know, people are finding it really tough because the way you've been encouraged to do your taxes is not necessarily
working for you in the new normal.
No, not at all.
I hear you. I know.
And there's a whole new way of doing that as well. You know, there's a whole new way of being able to do that, and actually being much more flight of foot with that. Set up a company, dissolve a company, move with it, you know, change hybrids, change things, change the way that you can think about it.
I think so long as you're doing things as efficiently, tax efficiently as possible. And that applies to the social businesses, that applies to the commercial businesses, it's across the board, so long as you're doing it in as an efficient way as possible. And that's obviously where Peter can come in, then that's the main thing. And with as reduced exposure, personal exposure and risk to you and your personal circumstances as possible. I think that's the way you need to think about it.
Brilliant. Well, if you can believe it, that's us at 12 o'clock.
No way.
Can't believe that.
That flew in.
That flew in. So thank you so much, Lucy, for your time. I really appreciate it. It's great to chat with you, and it's great to have you involved in Crave Entrepreneurs Club. I know that people are getting so much out of it, and just to know that you're there and understanding the challenges and have got that expertise is a real asset, especially during this time. So thank you so much.
I'm here in lockdown and beyond, so
great. Love it. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today at Elevenses. Next week, my colleague Sandy will be with us, and lots of really cool financial chat about, and it's going to be around interpretation of financial chat as well. So how it all should link together. So these are the informal bits to get a bit more information, find out a bit more, get to know us all a bit better. And then after that, if you want to pick up on resources, pick up on one-to-ones, then that is all there for you. So have a great rest of your Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye.